It is Monday, August 17th, 2020. It is 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and so you know what time it is. It's time for a little bit of coin metal. And it was yet another non-virtual get your ass kicked by Jiu-Jitsu Monday. Did not get my ass kicked at Jiu-Jitsu, did not actually roll with anybody today, but I did do some interesting stuff with my partner. And it was mostly from the reverse De La Riva position. And honestly, I really enjoyed the whole progression, and I really should have stayed behind and drilled it for an hour. But unfortunately, it would have left us without any time, because I would have had to, I would have had to start a lot later than I did. And so that I, couldn't do that. Anyway, I do expect that to be changing in the sometime near future, possibly adding an additional day to my routine. I've only been doing three times a week for a few months now. I'm starting to feel like I'm getting my stride as far as the drills go. I started doing some rolling, but then I backed off a little bit because I don't know. It felt like the guy that I rolled with, I was a little bit rough with, but I was watching today, and another pair of guys was rolling, and they were rolling way harder than I've ever rolled with anybody there. They were going for it a lot harder than I typically do. And I don't know if it was just that I was so much more dominant than my partner last time that I rolled. But it felt right. Everything just kind of sunk in. Although I had to get really unconventional. Like the first submission that I got on him, it wasn't a typical submission. Basically, what it was is it was somewhat like an arm triangle, with the exception that I had his arm in the gift wrap position, and I was basically cross-facing him. But I was kind of, if I'd had the pressure applied the right way, potentially I could have choked him out using at least partially his shoulder, kind of like you get a choke out with the triangle, a regular triangle, but it's more a crank than anything. It's like if you were to force your left arm across your body, like you're trying to stretch your tricep, right? Now imagine you've got somebody about 200 pounds on the back of your tricep, preventing your arm from coming up because they got their chest on your tricep. And then, on top of that, they come around with their left arm and hook it in like they're doing like a choke, and pinch your head or your neck between your own shoulder and their arm, and then just do a gable grip, and your head can't go anywhere because their head is there, And so it was just basically squeeze, tap, and I didn't really apply it so fast that he couldn't anticipate it, I don't know if he had any idea what was happening after I got his arm in the right position, but as soon as I felt it lock right into my armpit, it's like, oh, okay, that's money. And I bared down my weight on the back of his tricep, and I was in a full mount already, and so he couldn't really buck me because of the position that I had him in, and I think I had my right foot even hooked over his left hip, so it wasn't it was a full mount with an additional holding down with those toes over the top of his thigh, and so it was a bit of pressure. I don't even think I had that hook in. But I had my body weight on him. I might have had my other hook though. I might have had the left foot hooked on like the inside of his thigh or something like that to keep him from rolling. But yeah, so as far as like how much more time I put on the map than my opponent at that time, I feel like it was more a bit of ring rust for him, because in all honesty, he did all kinds of really neat basic countermeasures preventing me from progressing. And so, it seemed like he had a little bit of training at least. That he had done some time on the mat. I think probably in a gied jiu-jitsu situation, because it felt like he probably did like a month at the last dojo that I was training at, because there are certain things that they start people with, and one of them, and I got it like endlessly. If I let a white belt or a beginner get any advantage on me, they'd always end up in a full mount, and they'd always be trying to push my left arm off to the side to start setting up for that Americana. and so when he started doing that, I'm like, oh, this guy's got just a little bit of training. And I think I either reached around over the top of his arm and grabbed his other one with my right arm, and then the top of his knee with my left arm, and just like kicked his other leg up. And I think I actually had him in a full a full guard position. Although I don't think I was trying to do any kind of progression towards a triangle, and that probably would have been a good thing to do. But yeah, I just wanted to establish dominance and then go for a submission. That's just how I go. I like to attack arms, I like to attack heads, I like to attack necks. But I anticipate in the not so distant future, I'll be having a little bit of a leg game. One thing I got to work on, and it was something I noticed today, was a body triangle, and it's I guess it's because my legs are kind of short that I don't know, I don't tend to go for them as much. But I think when you're trying to set somebody up for a choke, there really isn't much better you can do than a nice body triangle, squeezing the air out of you. It cuts back on a lot of potential ways out, and it gives your opponent something a little bit more to deal with before they can actually address your neck. So if you're far enough ahead of the game on them, get that choke in. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw down with some music. And we're going to go with Body Count out the gate. But what song? I'm feeling a little crazy, so we're going to go a little institutionalized today. So let me see. Institutionalized 2014 First Dance here on Coin Metal. And that was Megadeth with Poisonous Shadows. Alright, so I did a little bit of digging around, as I normally do, and managed to find some tasty stuff. In this one, it had actually kind of caught my attention earlier. I don't know how to tell you all this, but a lot of these projects in crypto are open source. And so, because of that, you can't necessarily control everything about them. You can't necessarily control exactly when they're going to launch, what their capabilities are going to end up being, what the public actually wants, what the public will actually support with their hardware. All of these things are to question. Anyway, and just to exemplify that, I got this thing here. It's on CoinDesk.com. Newest DAO project was thrown a curve, but the team is rolling with it anyway. And this is authored on August 14th, 2020 at 2014 UTC, so a few days ago, but we're catching up with it, right? And so, yeah, this is by Colin Harper. So, yes, penis. On Thursday, an anonymous DeFi user deployed Curve Finance's decentralized autonomous organization and token smart contracts without the team's permission, but the Curve team is adopting it anyway. Since launching, the token contract already has roughly 3,500 active addresses and has seen some 31,000 transactions. Following the deployment, Curve Finance tweeted it, quote, had no choice but to adopt it, saying in another tweet it appears to be an acceptable deployment with the correct code. The abruptness of the launch and the team's willingness to go along with the premature activation has raised some eyebrows in the DeFi community. And Curve Finance is a decentralized exchange for stablecoin trading and has been live since February. The CRV token is designed to work with the Curve DAO. Oxchad signaled that the premature launch of Curve's DAO and governance token. Curve did not immediately respond. I don't really like the format of this, dude. It's just a bunch of fucking bullet points. Don't like it at all. But they do all have links that go somewhere and relate to this here story. And so I wanted to mine a little bit deeper into this thing. I wanted to find out, what's this project? What does this thing do? And why is it so weird that this guy just launched it? And so I did a bit of digging around. And this next one, it's... no, I don't want to cover that one. It's more backup about what the Curve happenings were. And we don't really need to do that. I actually dug around and I found the source of this thing, but I wanted to follow this little tweet storm because it exemplifies basically this whole industry of crypto. Okay, the Curve Finance had their own little launch dates and their established timeline for how they wanted things to unfold, right? But then this guy comes around, Oxchad, and this is a tweet thread by him. Yo, Curve Finance, saw your DAO is ready to rock, and I got to maximize my alpha, so I went ahead and deployed it for you. Get at me in DM to verify, and let's get this party started. I deployed from Oxchad, blah, 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 gives an address, and the token is blah, 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 gives an address. Sources verified on Etherscan, obviously, so check them out, my bros. There's even an Aragon DAO. There's even an Aragon Project DAO because decentralized governance is totally sweet. Let's see. I wanted to follow this one up. Okay. This yield kicks off in a few hours. You guys get ready to harvest some CRV with me or what? I see you transferred the 1.3 B tokens. I'm assuming that's billion tokens to a bunch of other addresses. Who are the receivers? All of them are contracts. 3 replies. Speedy, is this legit? Speedy replies, it's a very weird situation, but I think it was all organized shit. Elusive Sam says, I bought some though. Eden AU says, wow, you burned 20 ETH for gas. Oxchad says, rock and roll, gonna get it back and then some. Mega Alpha, my bro. You know who this sounds like? I want to say Kevin Bossack or something. I can't remember his name, But there's a guy that talks like this. And anyway, let's see. Lead the way. The financier says, can you translate for our members? Did you find the CRV contract? Cracked _up says, yes, please elaborate. What did you stake? Where? Icebergy says, LOL, who sent yams there? Leagy says, can you please verify on Sourceify ETH? Eager, blah, blah, blah. Replying Oxchat. Visual. Yes, it's very interesting there. I think that was like a side off of the thread, though. Let's see. Kicks off winning. Curve. This is interesting because this is where Curve Finance comes in with it. He says, interesting. We are proceeding with caution here. So far, it looks like contracts are the correct ones, as well as the deployment parameters correspond to real ones. Should verify, though. Oxchad says, verify away, and then let's harvest. ETH.MD says, Senpai, where do we stake our LP tokens to harvest CRV? CryptoLife.shop says, when fee, CryptoLife_shop says, when fee reverse. DeFi God says, the alphaist crypto chat of all time. History was made today. Mandolf says, the calm before the storm. Crypto Frog says, credibility 0, token dump forever. Crypto wins, Fern Josh 1 says, oh fuck. Cry _Binance says, when start. Trenton Gaddis, this is now. Oh man. So yeah, this just exemplifies the kind of activity that can happen in this space where, these. Oh, here. I want to go back onto this because this guy, one of the developers for this, chips in on this, kind of replies. But anyway, the next one is Jaffolisek, or Carpe Noctem, and he just has this gift that says, what the fuck? Let's see, Minneapolis 25 says, I really planned on this not being functional until another 24 hours. I seriously banked entirely on the potential of BTC rising today versus tomorrow. And I figured tomorrow morning would end up being more likely to be the last tiny dip short before takeoff, solidifying in the weekend. It's all dashed by this, of all events. Surrogate Code says, the yam haven't even cooled off yet, and we have already begun the next DeFi. Chadness happening. Oh man. Ali says, some explain what this means. Does this apply to YCRV tokens? Papacito says, no, this is for the governance token CRV. Oxchat deployed their contract to start farming it. Effing Galaxy Brain Chat move. Ali responds, how can I start farming it ASAP? Oh, crypto people, you never disappoint. And see, Papacito responds, farming CRV is much easier than yams, so we'll just do a thread on this one. Number 1, deposit liquidity on any Curve Finance pool. Y pool is the most profitable with AV and Iron Finance yield synergies. BTC are welcome. SBTC pool and Ren BTC pools are here. It gives us some links, I'm sure. Just be ultra careful. This is completely not verified at all, and no one is responsible for you possibly losing / getting hacked / getting wrecked because of some randos on Twitter. That's always been crypto Twitter, dude. I'm not a lawyer. This is not financial advice. You fucking proceed with your own caution. Yeah. Let's see. Mushroom Builder says, Mr. President, launch this token. ETH2 Traders says, you're the Chad of Chad, sir. Ox Chad says, we are all Chad. Let's see. Monomotica says, you got to be connected to Curve. This is pretty much like insider trading in the open, right? You guys had a bit of credibility, but how can you have that now? Yeah, you only get to blow that one once. Yeah. Yeah, Based Frog says, this is DeFi right here. Completely decentralized. Oxorasa says alpha is fuck. Yes, damn Skippy it is. Let's see. Sir, 720 Yam. This is Chad Move. Yep, total Chad. Let's see. Kushal Babel says, why does this style of talk sound familiar, huh? Gosh, I wonder. I wonder. So I can almost hear an echo of BitConnect somewhere in the back. BitConnect! Oh my gosh. That's funny stuff. Newbie here just want to ask if you pre-mined or anything else, trying to understand the logic here, and that was Jason Liu. Yeah. It is basically history, but this anybody can do this if you have the technical know-how and the gas up front, or the Ethereum in this case. You could do the same thing, and that's both the benefit and the peril that you face in crypto. And the thing is that if it's out there in the form of code, on a GitHub repository or something, and it's publicly viewable, you're not the only one that's going to have it, and you're not the only one that's going to use it or try to exploit it or find exploits in it or trying to find bugs in it. Dude, I mean, it's why you have to audit your fucking code, have other people audit your code, have people try your finished product. All of this stuff you can dick away with if you put a little bit of due diligence forward. And what bothers me the most about this is that in crypto, in the original when we first started, when crypto Twitter really took off, it was basically that people would put up their own hardware, or they would get some fucking AWS instances and mine with it or stake with it or whatever. But they would put something forward and they would directly participate. And the problem is that you've got people trusting the code of randos on Twitter. They deploy their code for people to evaluate, to audit, to check out. And this guy, he just says, fuck it, I'm going to launch the damn thing. It looks like it's complete, right? And there's nothing illegal about it. There's nothing saying he can't do it. And there's nothing saying that Curve couldn't go back around and say, you know what, this Oxchat guy is a complete asshole. He added this exploit in there that we didn't see coming, and we're not going to support it. And see, they have that option now. This is basically like a public beta. And the fact that people are so quick to dump money on it, it just tells you how desperate people are. And many of them don't fully understand what they're doing. They're just throwing money around. Oh, how do I get the money in there? How do I get the yield? How do I invest? These are the same things I saw in the ICO bubble. When I saw ICOs starting, I was like, basically it's a coin launch, but instead of putting up hardware and making a node and mining it like a smart person does, people were putting their money directly into it and hoping that that would somehow be able to supplement for the lack of trust involved. And unfortunately, it does not. But again, we are going to find this lesson out. It doesn't go away. And I've talked about it multiple times on this show, that you cannot trust. You have to verify. You have to use the shit. That's how you find out. You know, it's not something that you can observe from a window and get an accurate perspective of everything that's going on. And you know, to some extent, I'm kind of guilty of staying at the periphery of some of these things. Actually, most of them. But I will say that my trepidation is born of actual experience. You know, where you download a weird wallet and all of a sudden you got some fucking miner in your browser, shit doesn't work right, you got somebody trying to access your Google account from Bangladesh or somewhere like that, all of a sudden really weird shit happens, and you have to go through and delete all your fucking passwords and remake passwords and do a full rinse and douche on your computer and all that other shit. It's happened multiple times. But, I mean, it's never been costly, though. And it's mostly because I don't just send my money around fucking willy-nilly. I do encourage people to experience these things. And to some extent, I've done plenty of shit as far as sending money around, raining money on people, all that shit. I've done it. And it's fun. I'm trying to think of a couple of ways that I would like to do that again, with some, making it some sort of award system. And I haven't quite worked it out entirely in my mind, but if it at all possible, I think crypto can make it possible. You know, it's one of those things where I see a fit between the two, and it's just working out the details. You know, actual function. But anyway, so I wanted to get to the ground with regard to Curve and Curve Finance and all that other shit. I wanted to know what the new shiny was while it's still in this only semi-damaging state. And so I did a little digging around, and I managed to find the white paper for this. And we're going to get into it on the other side of a music break, because you know it's probably going to be a little bit long. But anyway, yeah, I want to get into this thing and talk a little bit about it. I think it's really interesting that it was deployed in this way. Although I will say, and you guys got to pay attention here, these kind of deployments happen before. Have happened before. That, like, at one point during the alt bloom, we were having people that were part of development groups for a coin who would go off the range before the coin launched and launch their own variant of it. You know, like they changed the optics a little bit, they wiggle waggle around with the UI and make it look a little different, change the colors, give it a different name, rebrand it, and launch it even before the original project came out. And it's one of the things that kind of spoiled crypto, because what would happen is that a coin would have some sort of flaw in it, and somebody would just copy and paste all the fucking code over and not bother to audit the code themselves. And so they come out with it and they're like, oh yeah, this is our shit, this is wonderful. And then it's got some big exploit in it, either factored into it intentionally or as a product of not fully audited code. And that project would go down, it would get hacked, the exploit found, whatever. And then people go back and say, well, who were you involved with? Where did this project come from? And people that were familiar with the code would say, oh, wait a minute, that's this coin over here. That's their code. But they would do that in some IRC channel or something like that. They wouldn't bother to tell the public until they were actually taking advantage of the exploit, and then it would suck for somebody. But this danger hasn't gone away. Audit your fucking code. Watch out for your bunghole. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down with some music. And as far as where we're going to go next, well, we played a little bit of that, played a little bit of that. We haven't played any of this. And so let's go for it. The Contortionist, Causality, here on Coin Metal. And that was Prong with Detached. And so, as I'd said before, I did a little bit of digging around because I wanted to find out more about this curve thing. And so I did a little digging around, and I managed to find this. It's the white paper for curve.fi, or stable swap. And so yeah, let's get into this thing. Stable swap, efficient mechanism for stablecoin liquidity. And this is authored by Michael Igorov. My apologies there. And this is on November 10th, 2019. So yes, penis. Abstract. Stable swap provides a mechanism to create cross markets for stablecoins in a way which could be called, quote, Uniswap with leverage. It is a fully autonomous market maker for stablecoins with very minimal price slippage, as well as an efficient, quote, fiat savings account for liquidity providers on the other side. This is a brief version which doesn't show all the details, most notably the stable swap invariant. Introduction. Stablecoins become very popular recently. Custodial USDC, USDT, BUSD, PAX, TrueUSD, as well as decentralized DAI. They, however, especially decentralized ones, have a problem of price stability and liquidity. This is especially painful for DeFi arbitrage. For example, when MakerDAO decreased its stability fee to 5.5%, many users of Compound, which had the interest rate of 11% at the time, preferred to stay there because they've taken the loan in DAI, and converted between DAI and USDC is an expensive task, or converting between those two. At the same time, many DeFi users are willing to load their stablecoins up for lending in order to earn 5% APR, as it is much more than what traditional banking offers. They, however, would be uncomfortable giving some money to trading firms who, quote, promise profits. In this work, I introduced StableSwap, automated liquidity provider for stablecoins. On the demand side, it offers a Uniswap-like automated exchange with very low price slippage, typically 100 times smaller. On the supply side, it offers a multi-stablecoin, quote, savings account, which according to simulation can bring 300% APR, according to simulations assuming that traders will arbitrage between the smart contract and the existing exchanges, taking into account their trading volumes and prices for stablecoins for the past half of a year. This happens with no middleman being responsible for the trading, ergo, no exchange owners, no order books, no human market makers. How it works. First of all, imagine a liquidity provider which has a constant price. Yeah, that's impossible, but okay. If you have two coins, X and Y, for example, selling DX of a coin X will lead to buying minus DY equals DX of Y coin. What? This can be generalized for any number of coins, X1 having a linear invariant, sigma X1 equals constant. The price is determined as negative DXI, or to the square root of I, or whatever, divided by DX to the square root of J, which is in this case always exactly 1. This doesn't work in a fluctuating market unless the price is adjusted all the time. It can be done with price oracles, but it has risks and not very decentralized. It is possible to do it better. Uniswap, Bancor, and Kyber work with inherently volatile and price unstable markets, so they do it differently. They adjust prices in such a way that the quote portfolio, which is just two coins, is rebalanced so that the value of coin X and Y in the liquidity pool, when expressed in the same currency, is the same. It appears that this is given automatically when you keep product of quantities of coins in the liquidity pool constant. X times Y equals constant. Moreover, XY equals constant. Moreover, it is possible to generalize this invariant to any number of coins with any ratios, as was brilliantly done by Balancer. And it gives us a nice little mathematical equation. While this is suitable for assets like Ethereum and tokens, it's not very well working for something which is meant to be stable. Dude, the whole idea of making something quote-unquote stable is fucking stupid. It's just stupid. Anyway, continuing on. The problem is that the price slippage is enormous, and one should provide enormous funds to keep a meaningful liquidity. On the flip side, if one, for example, loads DAI and USDC into Uniswap's liquidity pool, the returns will be tiny, perhaps several percent per year. For StableSwap, there was a middle ground invariant found. As expected, the price equal to derivative only slightly deviates from 1 when number of coins is close to balance. And it gives us a nice little graph. Figure 1 comparison of stablecoin invariant with Uniswap constant dash product and constant price invariance. The portfolio consists of coins X and Y, which have the quote ideal price of 1.0. There are X equals 5 and Y equals 5 coins loaded up initially. As X decreases, Y increases, and the price is the derivative dy divided by dx. And I'm assuming that's like quantity of Y divided by quantity of X. Anyway, the price slippage, figure 2, is much smaller if compared to constant product invariant. The stable swap invariant has a quote amplification coefficient parameter. The lower it is, the closer the invariant is to the constant product. When calculating slippage, we use a practical value of A equals 100. This is somewhat comparable to using Uniswap with 100 times leverage, or 100x. And stable swap Uniswap gives a nice little graph. Figure 2, price slippage, Uniswap invariant, dash line versus stable swap solid line. If the price appears to be shifted from equilibrium point 1.0, the invariant starts operating in a suboptimal point, yet, however, providing some liquidity, in most cases larger than constant dash product invariant, if optimal A was correctly found. At any price, this invariant, just like a constant dash product one, would provide some liquidity, unlike the constant dash sum invariant. Constructing the stable swap invariant. As depicted in Figure 1, the constant dash price invariant forms a straight line, or a hypersurface, if having more than 2 coins. A constant dash product invariant forms a hyperbola. Hyperbola. Oh, okay. The price is a slope of the line on the graph. We are looking for some invariant which is relatively flat near balance. Price changes slowly. The graph is very close to the straight line, likely a quote zoomed in hyperbola. However, shifting towards the constant dash product invariant as the portfolio becomes more imbalanced, ergo closest to the axis. Here are some dash, constant dash sum, constant dash price, and constant dash product invariance, generalized for n coins enumerated by I, gives a nice little formula. Constant D has the meaning of... Dude, this is all bullshit, but we'll continue reading it. The constant D has a meaning of the total amount of coins when they have an equal price. Let's imagine what would an amplified invariant be. It should have a small curvature to have a low price slippage. A, quote, zero slippage invariant would correspond to infinite leverage. However, the zero slippage invariant is a constant price or a constant dash sum one. Hence, assuming that constant dash product has a, quote, zero leverage and constant sum has an infinite leverage, let's construct something in between. Let's denote the leverage x. If we multiply the constant dash sum invariant by x and add it to the constant dash product one, we will have an invariant which is a constant dash product when x equals 0 and constant dash sum when x equals infinity, the property we are looking for. However, x should ideally be a dimensionless parameter, not depending on the number of coins we have. Therefore, let's multiply the constant dash sum invariant by xd to the power of n minus 1 and add the second invariant. And it gives us a big ass... Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, I don't think this guy's basically just trying to hide in math, I think. If this equation holds at all times, we will have trades with a leverage X. However, it wouldn't support prices going far from the ideal price of 1.0. The invariant should support any prices so that we have some liquidity at all times. Yeah, I can see this thing's going to get wrecked already. In order to do so, we make X dynamic. When the portfolio is in a perfect balance, it's equal to a constant A. However, falls off to 0 when going out of balance, or when they drain your fund. Substituting this leveraged invariant above, and it gives nice little equation. Invariant above, we come to a stable swap invariant, and it gives us a nice little equation here. When the portfolio of coins X, or let's see, the square root of X is loaded up, we need to calculate D, and we need to hold this equation true when we perform trades, ergo swap to the square root of X into... Oh, Jesus Christ. That is done by identifying an iterative converging solution either for D or for X. I know I'm reading that wrong. When all other variables are known. Yeah, I don't need to know the math behind this to tell you that basically this is somebody is going to find an exploit in the format or in the UI or something like that, or just in the formula itself. They're going to exploit it and drain the fucking DAO fund, and this thing is going to get fucked. Anyway, continuing on. Simulations in performance. The performance of the algorithm was evaluated and optimized, assuming providing liquidity for 3 stablecoins, DAI, USDC, and USDT, or TD. What's USDT? What's USTD? I know what USDT is, but not TD. Anyway, continuing on. Taking price feeds from Coinbase Pro, DAI, USDC, Binance, USDC, USDT, and HitBTC, USDT/DAI. Over the period of 6 months, May through October 2019, the simulations assumed the total liquidity in the contract of $30,000. Trades were only done if there was enough volume in the price change. The results were the following. Optimal, quote, amplification coefficient, leverage, A equals 85. Optimal fee was 0.06% per trade. Liquidity provider profit at optimal parameters, 312% APR. Annual. That's what that is. Implementation, meaning you'd have to tie up your money for a full year to be seeing that 312% gain. Implementation. Multi-stablecoin contract was implemented in Viper. Solutions of the equations which use the stable swap invariant were obtained iteratively inside the smart contract itself using only integer arithmetics. Browser UI was implemented in a pure client-side JavaScript. Other applications, apart from liquidity for stablecoins, the same method can be applied for providing liquidity to interest-bearing assets, that would be CDAI, and tokenized stake for stakeable cryptocurrencies. In my opinion, the method is an important part of future DeFi infrastructure. Applying this method to stablecoins can get it, quote, battle-tested and to increase usability of decentralized non-custodial stablecoins. Yeah, whatever. And it gives a nice little UI figure, and that's that. Yeah, so this thing is going to get hacked. It's going to get a decent amount of liquidity, and of course, they've been relieved of responsibility because it wasn't the original team that launched it, supposedly. We've seen this game before, kids. You know, the rogue launch of it, in my opinion, that's basically a stunt to relieve them of any kind of exploits that are taken advantage of. Oh, it's not our launch. Oh no, our launch is different on that line, even though the person just copy and pasted it. Oh wait, look at this iteration. He didn't use this iteration, he used this one. Give me a fucking break. This is how you launch something that is probably intended specifically to rip people off of their fucking Ethereum and zero out any kind of responsibility for when the exit scam happens. There's a lot of shoulds, a lot of woulds, a lot of imagines in this paper. I mean, really, go back and look through the Bitcoin white paper. The only shoulds in there were like, a miner should find that playing by the rules is the best policy. That's about the only quote-unquote should that was in there. And, of course, we've seen where that's been abused multiple times. Where some found that they should abuse the system in order to unfairly benefit themselves. But, then again, we've seen where these innovations become implementations that everybody utilizes in the not so distant future after that. And really, I don't see that going away either, where somebody will do something like ASIC boost. Perfect example. Okay, it was a legitimate implementation. There was plenty of notice. There was plenty of information out there concerning it before it was launched and before it was utilized. But because not everybody did it, a bunch of people threw a fit. But what happened? Did ASIC Boost go away? No. Now everybody fucking uses it. Why? Because it's an implementation that increases the efficiency of ASIC mining. That's why. It makes you fucking more money for the amount of electricity that you dedicate to it. So why wouldn't you do it? Right? But yeah, this stable swap thing. I don't trust stable coins to begin with. I believe that they are non-regulated securities, specifically those that are explicitly stated to be backed by volumes of US dollars or other fiat currency. Or anything. If they claim to be backed by gold, they claim to be backed by silver, even if it's just certificates of both, it doesn't fucking matter. I hold them all suspect. I regard them all as equally fraudulent, because a US dollar is not a USDT, is not a USDC, is not a GUSD. It's a USD. It's not any of those other things. And so to imply that your token is 100% stable with the US dollar is complete and utter bullshit. And there are multiple reasons why. You know, it's like Tether does not issue new Tether to offset the new volume of US dollars coming into the market. And there have been several $trillion of stimulus issued by the Federal Reserve over this last quarter. I mean, like, I want to say it's over 10 trillion this quarter. Now, is the volume of USDT that's gone in circulation proportional to the volume of US dollars circulating within the cryptosphere alone? I say no. And so how can you conceivably be able to evaluate a USDT at the same rate as a USD? How can you do it? You can't. The only way you can do it is through manipulation. It's one of those little manipulations that the exchanges are more than happy to participate in. I mean, it is to some extent a function of the invisible hand of the market. I mean, it all balances out at the end, right? But it's the unfair advantage that they have, where you have these tokens which do not necessarily have any kind of backing in US dollars, and although they do have corresponding transactions with them with some volume of some crypto tied up in them, it isn't necessarily in tune with the actual value of a coin. Or the disbursement rate. I mean, and that's the other thing. There are several qualities of the US dollar that the public does not have access to. The only people that have access to it are the fucking US Treasury, maybe, and the Federal Reserve. And even them, among the 13 Federal Reserve banks, they don't have 100% synergy between them over who has what they just don't. They don't have synergy with the private banks that are branches of them. And because of this, when you're claiming to be able to somehow, by some magic, associate your token in such a way with the US dollar that it's somehow magically one-to-one paired with it, I don't know any magic by which that's possible. And I don't accept that DeFi is it. You may have a token on your exchange and somebody may agree to evaluate it at $1 on a one-to-one basis, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you actually have $1 for every single one of the tokens that you have issued or that the exchanges claim to have. Of course, there are ways to verify their reserves or to some extent their reserves, but you would have to get like an official audit. You would have to have somebody going in internally who's able to verify the addresses that they have and the volume of tokens that they have on hand. And of course, there are some ways to audit them from outside, just their traffic in and out. But I'm saying in order to know for certain, you would have to do a virtually internal audit. You would have to be doing things from inside them. And so I don't believe in these tokens, and I believe if there is any source of quote-unquote manipulation, or if there's a lot of money laundering or some shit like that or other criminal activity, that it is happening in stablecoins. And just because JP Morgan is involved and just because Goldman Sachs is involved, it doesn't fucking matter. It's still criminal. And in the cases of JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs, I would be willing to bet that every US dollar that they are claiming backs their USDC and what was the other one? There's another one out there that I think it's JP Morgan's coin or JPM coin or something like that. Anyway, that if you were to go through and audit their books, that you would find that all of the US dollars that they are claiming or backing their coins are actually commingled funds. They're customer funds. They're assets that Goldman Sachs manages for their customers, or JP Morgan manages for their customers. These are people that invest with Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan. They say, here's our US dollars, make some fucking money with it. Get us some yield. But they don't necessarily know that Goldman Sachs is also using them as assets, collateralizing their USDC that they got out there in the fucking market. And they don't know to what extent those are fractionally reserved on the exchanges that are holding them. And we don't either. So this whole, let's trade stable coins. I mean, really. There is no such thing as a quote-unquote stable coin. A stable coin is a dead coin. It's only stable because nobody is exchanging it for anything. It's not in circulation. Therefore, it is stable. It is dead. So yeah, stable swap, I think that we're going to see DAO part 2, or I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 by now. It seems like there have been several entities that have tried this, and they always end the same way, that people fuck it up. And as a matter of fact, I followed this up. I looked on Curve's website. They actually have a link on their website that says risks. I mean, we could call that what is it? Legal omissions, or anyway, let's get into this. It's on curve.fi/risks. Risks of using Curve Finance. Providing liquidity on Curve doesn't come without risks. Before making a deposit, it is best to research and understand the risks involved. Audits. Curve smart contracts were audited by Trail of Bits. However, security audits don't eliminate risks completely. Please don't supply your life savings or assets you can't afford to lose to Curve, especially as a liquidity provider. Using Curve as an exchange user should be significantly less risky, but this is not advice. Admin keys. Admin key allows to pause the contract in an emergency, but only during the first 2 months in existence. Also, it allows to change amplification coefficient, curve parameter. Admin key, not more than half of fee which LPs take, and the fee. All the changes are time-locked for 3 days before being applied for enough notice. That does not relieve you of any responsibility for any shit that happens, for any changes that you make or attempt to implement, and your fucking validators or whatever don't bother to update and fuck everything up. Anyway, continuing on. Smart contracts cannot be upgraded with admin key. This limits actions in the case of an emergency, but leaves users fully in control of their funds. Not good enough. Curve will be transitioning to a DAO to be fully decentralized. Permanent loss of a peg. If one of the stablecoins in the pool goes significantly down below the peg of 1.0 and never returns to the peg, it'll effectively mean the pool liquidity providers hold almost all of their liquidity in that currency. Staking risks. When staking, you use multiple smart contracts products, each of which has its own risks. Learn more about each pool's risks. And let's look at something here. Dune Analytics. Dune Analytics. This is Curve.fi trade sources. Let's see here. Their highest volume is in Y. Whatever the fuck Y is. And let's see, what's their next one? The next highest one looks like USDT. They got some compound in there, or an equivalent amount of compound, but not much of anything else. Let's see, Curve.fi total liquidity is at, let's see, total liquidity is 857,971,000,000. Oh no, I'm off by a factor there. It's 857,971,140. It just says total liquidity. It's not telling me whether that's dollars or not. But I guess we're approaching like 1 billion on here, maybe? Let's see. Total trading volume fees per day. And today it was at 62,000. What is it? 62,000 something? Yeah, 62,858. Interesting. I guess this was 3 days ago, was the last time it was viewed or something. And let's see, total volume per day. And today it's down, it looks like it's down to 403,000. Not very much, by comparison to its peak anyway. Cumulative volume was 2,469,392,408 and 72 cents. According to this, these guys are probably going to get wrecked. If they're not wrecked, they're probably going to get regulated like really hard. Let's see, total cumulative volume counter. Let's see, 2,469,000. Yeah, we got that. Total volume on the last day was $10,356,368. Total volume last week, let's see, 86,998,976. Interesting. Yeah, and it looks like the majority of it that's been in here has been DAI and USDC. Some USDT. Yeah, all in all, it looks like if all of this is to be believed, it looks like it's kind of a flash in the pan. It hasn't been active all that long. And, yeah, I expect it'll probably get wrecked. People will lose a lot of money, and then they'll learn not to throw their money at whatever the new shiny is that hops across the line, you know? Yeah. Anyway, so stable swap, I'd stay away from this. Curve, CRV, I would stay away from it as well. Yeah. Not as a liquidity provider, not a harvester, none of that business, because I mean, if you put your money in it, I think you're basically putting your money in somebody's wallet, and that they will at one point or another abscond with it. But that's just my feeling, you know. I don't have any crystal ball here. All I have is past experience and having viewed this shit for as long as I have and seen as much come down the pike as I have. But anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down with some music. Kind of needed after that. That was a bit lengthy. But yeah, I haven't played this in a while. One Hand Killing by 12 Foot Ninja here on Coin Metal. And that was Textures with Oceans Collide. And it is with that I'd like to close out this episode. Thank you very much for listening. I certainly do appreciate the support. We'll be back again on Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and so until then, I want y'all to trade safe. Do your homework. And watch out for your own bunghole, because nobody else is going to do it for you. And as far as our last dance is concerned, I'd spun up a little bit of Lamb of God, and so we're going to close it out with that. Checkmate, Last Dance, here on Coin Metal. Thank you again for listening, and y'all have an excellent evening. Good night.